our buddy James would have been here. He would have been talking on this one, but Dennis is going to take it on for him.
Yeah.
This is from Jesse Campos. He landed fourth place.
Hey guys, this is Jesse Campos. I want to send a special thank you to AEDO from Fabworks for putting out a challenge that I joined and got fourth place. I did miss the live though, guys. I really did, and I have to apologize. I was looking forward to being on there with you guys and watching it live as you went through each contestant and talked about their build, and I stayed on Central Time. I took my son to baseball practice, got home at 7:30, started making my popcorn and getting everything ready and gonna sit down and watch the show, and you know, I jumped on when you guys were down to the last two contestants. So yeah, I was bummed out, man. So I had to go back and watch it, but you know, found out that I got fourth place and I was super excited about that. Still mad that I wasn't there because you guys were asking questions. Well, you know, I wasn't there to answer them, so that bummed me out a little bit. And you know, I decided way before then that if I did well in this contest, that I was going to start putting content out there, and this is that first video, and that's why the thanks goes out to Fabworks. And if you have not seen Fabworks, check him out. I'm going to put a link down below in the descriptions for the challenge that he put out, so you guys can go and watch that and see all the fabulous builds that these contestants did. I mean, it was amazing. So, and I wanted to get on here and explain some of the questions that you guys had about the container, right? So, question number one.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I
wanna
landed
know
on
if it
number
opens.
4.
Does the container open? I heard the debate going back and forth, and yes, it does open. So it does split down the middle. It's not like a toy chest. It doesn't come from one side and back. It splits down the middle, and I did that for a reason. And you know, I didn't submit the video, or I didn't submit the pictures with the doors open because of the backstory was that I stole the crate, and you know what's inside the crate, that's a whole nother story. So that's going to be video number 2 that I'm going to put out, is what is going to be inside this crate. I got a great idea of what I want to do and what I want to put in here, and how I want to go about building it is going to be a pretty good sized build. So it's going to take me some time to get that one done. But to answer that question, it does open. Question number 2.
And weren't we debating a little bit about what was behind the grill on the front? Didn't we have a lot of questions about
Yeah,
that?
we were
And
talking
how
about
they did it.
what the
We had
magic
no
they
idea.
make the
Bottom.
grill.
It looked 3D
Yeah,
printed, but
Jesse,
we couldn't figure it out. It's
Jesse,
like,
if you're out there, we'd like to know what that grill was made from.
Yeah,
So it was, I think, discussed in there that I ended up 3D printing, or there was all kind of questions on how I did this grill, and you know, you guys wanted to know how I did the grill. So the backing of this grill, and I don't know if you can see from this video, but the backing is 1/4 inch MDF. The rails that run down are from a 1x4 pine that I stripped down and got the right scale that I was looking for. And the what's on the MDF, right? I think that's kind of what the question was. What's on the MDF to give that look? And you know, I went to Home Depot, I bought this vent, and I came back, it was a small vent. I was like, yeah, this is gonna work. And I came back and I bought a small section, and I put a small section in here, and I stepped back and I looked at it and I was like, man, that looks like I just glued a whole bunch of stuff on there, and it just was not gonna fly. In order for me to hide all of that and make it look like it belonged on here, it just, there was no way I was gonna be able to do it. So I canned it, went back to Home Depot, started from the gardening section, worked my way all the way down until I hit the drywall section. When I hit the drywall section, I ran across a roll of mesh tape. If anybody's ever seen this or ever used it, it's used for drywall. You put it on a seam in the drywall, and you put compound over it in order to hide that seam. So when I saw this, I said, man, I can put that in the center of each one of these rails, and that would give me the look that I'm looking for. And so it was easy to line it up, cut it out. You know, it's got an adhesive on the back of it. It's not very sticky, but it's got adhesive, so I was able to put that in there, clean it up real nice, and line it up. And I knew that when I put the weathering on this, and I put the black paint on there, sprayed it on there, I knew that it was gonna pop, man, and it did. And as soon as I put that weathering on there and I put the paint on there, it just popped. I was super excited with it. So it's running on all the grills on all 3 sides. And I was super excited with that. So the other thing was the hinges. The hinges I struggle on. It took me a while before I even came up with this design on the hinge. And you know, as a builder and a maker, you kind of want to stump the audience. And I think I did that with you guys because you couldn't figure out what it was or how it was made. You knew it was a hinge, but I started off with a piano hinge. You know, you can cut sections of this, so I cut a small section and put it in here. And when I did that, I was like, I'll just weather it and be done with it. I was trying to make it quick and easy because I knew how much work had to go into the paint on this piece. But as I started opening and closing and opening, I was working on my LED lights, and I kept opening one side over and over for the wiring and cutting the holes and everything else. It started to tear the paint on the hinge. So you could see the chrome underneath it. And I said, this is not gonna work, man. You know, if you guys ever painted a hinge in your house on your doors, you know that when you open and close, it's gonna start tearing into that paint, and that's what happened. So I had to can that, and I went back to Home Depot and I found a T-hinge. You know, so I put the T-hinge in here, and I said, okay, now I gotta hide that T-hinge, and I went ahead and I built this bracket. It's all built out of MDF, and just 1/2 inch MDF, 1/4 inch MDF, and just small pieces. And I needed it to be functional. That way these doors would open all the way, because, you know, and it doesn't go all the way down, but it goes far enough to where I need it. This will eventually stop here once I'm done with the inside. But I did one, weathered it, loved it. Ended up taking 7 stitches to my hand because of it. But you know, it came out great. The hinges, I love them a lot. So the third question.
If that's MDF, this guy is a carpenter. I mean, that is well made. That is.
It's
really
got to be
well
MDF.
I agree.
I'm gonna be shocked if it's not, because he covered up all the green.
Yeah,
Right.
It's awesome.
What was this made from? MDF, right? No, that's not. It was made from 1/2 inch plywood. And, you know, here's a piece. This is the only piece that I have left of this plywood, but you can tell it has knots, it has grains, it's heavy. I had quite a bit of this laying around, and I don't ever throw anything away, and I don't think any maker does. I know I don't throw anything. I'm just like you guys. I hold on to everything, every little scrap piece of wood that I got. I hold on to it. Button, screw, it doesn't matter. I keep it somewhere. And so I had this, and I had enough to build this box. So I said, this is what I'm using. I'm not gonna use MDF. I have MDF. I actually have 3 sheets that I'm working on right now. But I wanted it to be light as well. Plywood's light. MDF, once you start using a lot of it, it gets real heavy. So I wanted it to be light. And I wasn't worried about the grain. I wasn't worried about the knots, because I was gonna go heavy with the paint. I don't even know how many coats of orange I put on here before I started weathering. I didn't even let the orange dry before I started weathering. You're talking about spinning, you know, I would turn this piece, weather the front, turn it again, weather this side while that was drying. I'm weathering this side, and I kept rotating this piece over and over for hours and hours, and taking photos of it, looking at the photos, saying I need more weathering. You know, it took days to do the weathering on this, and this was all working at night, you know, till 11, 12 o'clock at night, right after work. So, but I ended up getting it where I wanted it, and I enjoyed it. And, you know, I knew that, okay, as soon as I find out where I stand from this challenge, I knew that I wanted to start putting content out there. And this was that jump off. And that's why that special thank you goes to Fabworks for putting this challenge out there. And, you know, should have been first place, just saying, you know, but 4th place works, you know. Everybody put some amazing stuff out there, man. I would have loved to have been a judge in this and just see this stuff come across, right? Because you get stumped, right? When you, especially as a builder, when you're stumped and when you see something and you're like, that's what it is. that's what it is. And then they come back and say, no, you're not even close. You're like, wow, you did a great job on that. And, thank you, Fabworks. Again, guys, go check him out. Subscribe to his channel. The guy does great content. Every Monday there's a live. So, part 2 is going to come from this. There's going to be a part 2 to this. And there's going to be a part 1, right? Because I want to put the content on there on how I built this. I built this whole thing in one day, right? Sean Cash hit it. I am a carpenter. When it comes to wood and building, it just comes to me, man. And when I'm in a zone, I'm in a zone. And when I built this thing, I built the box, I built everything, the outside, all in one day. It was glued together in one day. When I get in that zone, I'm in that zone, right? And then I came back and cut everything else out of it. And then the weathering and everything else, the figuring out how to do the hinges and the grill and everything took some time, especially after work when you're only doing it a few hours a day. But I am going to start putting this content out there for you guys, and I'm going to show you guys how I built this because, just like Brian and the Smugglers Room and all these guys that are out there, try to finish something. I'm always trying to finish something. I still got a Gaunt Droid back here that I'm working on. I still got my, the Brian Thompson, wall. I got lights in here that I still have to wire up. I'm always trying to finish something, always trying to work on something. But this was that one challenge that I knew that I was going to see it all the way through, and I was able to finish the whole thing. It's done. I knew that I was not going to be able to get to the inside. That's a part 2. So again, thank you to all the judges, man. All you guys, I follow every single one of you guys. And I love all the content that you guys put out there. I love watching it. I'm constantly on YouTube just waiting for an update from you guys to post something. And I think it's about time that, I join that group as well and start putting some great content out there and for everybody to see, I made every excuse under the sun, every excuse I could think of. And I got my iPhone out now and I said, I'm not going to let anything stop me. I've never watched a video and said, is he shooting that on an iPhone or a $1,000 camera, which that is a $1,000 camera. But thank you again, Fabworks. Thank you, judges. Thanks to all the contestants that submitted their bills. They were all amazing. They were all great. I enjoyed every bit of it. Thanks again, guys. Until part 2.